You could do this. You could do this. Okay. 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 We got ourselves a Gohan episode this week. Let me tell you something. If I seem a little bit more unhinged than normal, this episode made me come to terms with something that I have repressed for years. Something I did not like to think about. It brought up something that, like, when I watched it as a child, I was so pissed off by. I just tried to forget about it. I tried to shove it in the back of my mind. But it was this episode that made me relive it. And I was like, oh no, 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 please, not that. I repressed that memory for a reason. Why are you making me relive this? But it was almost like you have to, like, confront your demons to get over them. Because they brought it up, but they also, like, called it out for what it was. And then, you know, it's through Piccolo that, you know, Gohan learns the shit that he's done in the past. The shit that made me really honestly dislike his character by the end of Dragon Ball Z. And set it on the path, like, set him back on his proper path, alright? So, before we get into this episode, two main points of this episode. Piccolo and Gohan's training, and the big reveal on the Legendary Super Saiyan of Universe 6. You know what? I'm just gonna cover that now. It happens, like, in the middle of the episode, but I really have to just unload on you afterwards, and so I'm not gonna wait until, like, the very end to talk about it, because I'm probably gonna be drained. I just got back from work, as you can tell, so let's just talk about Caulifa right now. Alright, so Cabba, you know, after, you know, being chewed out by Champa, being like, find more freaking Saiyans that are strong, he, you know, we thought he was going to go immediately to, the Legendary Super Saiyan, the female, Super Saiyan. We thought, you know, that's where he was going to go. Not really the case. Cabba gets in his spaceship, and he flies off to a random world, where there's this, like, old dude just kind of living there. He's laid up, he has a broken bone in his leg or something, can't move his leg too well, and he's just sitting there, and his name is Renso, which is like the Japanese term for spinach, so we're still going along with the, you know, the Saiyans named after, you know, different kinds of vegetables. So, Renso is actually the former captain of, like, the Salada Defense Force, which is what, like, Cabba's part of, and he was his former captain. So, when Champa is, like, chewing him out, like, go find strong warriors, of course, Cabba would immediately think of his, like, oh, our former captain. So, he goes and tries to recruit him, but Renso brings up that not only does he not want to fight, it's just that I don't think, you know, on top of my injuries, you know, he can't move his leg that well. Cabba's like, oh, well, you could be more tactical. And Renso's like, I think you're overestimating me here, Cabba. I mean, I don't think that if the stakes are this high, and Cabba tells him about the risk involved with the universe being destroyed, you know, he's like, even with these risks involved, that makes me want to do it less, because I really think you're overestimating me here. I really think I won't be able to I won't be much help for you. So you instead go and try to recruit my younger sister, Caulifa, named after cauliflower, of course, who is going to be the Legendary Super Saiyan, as we see in the title. She has a very, you know, it's funny, because in the original, like, the promotional images, we see her as kind of like a meek, shy girl. You know, she's kind of sitting there. I don't have the image queued up, but she's just like, and then she turns into, like, you know, she She-Hulks out into Legendary Super Saiyan. But in this episode, she seems fucking badass. She's, like, in this weird place. Looks like a fucking maximum security prison or something, where there's, like, these bunch of people, like, guarding her, and she's just sitting in this throne next to a bunch of treasure chests, just gnawing down on meats, apparently topless. So, you know, even without going into Super Saiyan or Legendary Super Saiyan, she shan't be fucked with, apparently. They are aware of her great powers. So, we don't actually get to see a scene of Cabba trying to recruit Caulifa. That'll probably be later on, or Caulifa. I think it's Caulifa, rather. I can't say Caulifa, because then I think of Caulifa from One Piece, but whatever. So, Cabba brings up, like, he knows who she is, but he doesn't get along with her too much. So, we're probably going to get that next episode with him meeting up with her and trying to recruit her in, maybe before we get a little bit of character development for her, a little bit of who she is before we actually get into the fucking battle royale, 80 people zipping around. Probably not a lot of room for letting you know, oh, I am this person from this place, and I can do this and this and this. You know, maybe we will when we're actually in the middle of the battle royale, but I would like to see a little bit of setup, especially since this is such a big deal. This is a Legendary Super Saiyan, something that's only been seen before from a non-canon character in a movie. Which was funny because broccoli and cauliflower are in like the same family of vegetables, I guess. So that's kind of like maybe their reference, their homage to Broly is broccoli and Broly, Caulifa and cauliflower. So there you go. We get to see her finally. She looks pretty badass. I can't wait until Cabba meets her. Even if we don't get to see Cabba meeting her, if we just, because there's a 1-day time skip in this episode. We skip over like 24 hours, and by the end of this episode, we only have 9 hours left until the Tournament of Power kicks off proper. But it was interesting seeing her, as well as Renso, as well as getting a little bit more of a look at the reformed Saiyan race and how like it's the Salada Defense Force that patrols the universe and stuff. And we even see a scene where Cabba displays his new Super Saiyan transformation to Renso. And it's interesting, though, because Renso, you'd think that if his sister was as capable of this legendary Super Saiyan transformation, Renso would recognize it as being very similar to Cabba's regular Super Saiyan transformation. So rather, there's either two ways of looking at this. Either just Renso didn't know, which I find that hard to believe, or Caulifa is such a badass, she doesn't even need to know how to do the legendary Super Saiyan. I'm sure she already does, but she hasn't used it yet, and she's that terrifying, you know, but whatever. Anyway, let's talk about Gohan, all right? I need to bring something up here, okay? I want to take you back to when I was a little kid watching Dragon Ball Z, okay? I had a childhood friend. His name was Ian, and he was about a year or so older than me. He lived down the street, and me and Ian were way into Dragon Ball Z. I still remember very vividly in my living room, my dad had just gotten me the VHS of Goku going Super Saiyan 3 in the Buu Saga. Now, it's important to mention at this point that, yeah, it was running on Cartoon Network on Toonami, but the VHS tapes that were released were, like, way ahead of that. So, you know, the VHS releases were, like, 20 or 30 episodes ahead of the TV anime. So I would always get the VHSs, and we would get, like, the latest, you know, the newest episodes you could possibly get in America at that time. Didn't have internet, or he did, it was just shitty internet. I still remember me and him downstairs in my living room watching the episode where he goes Super Saiyan 3, and we're just jumping up on the fucking couch. It's like, go Goku, kick his ass, yeah! It's the entire episode of just Goku screaming. But we get up to when, finally, Gohan is training with the Z-Sword, which I thought was incredible, because I thought the idea, oh man, he's using a sword, that's so cool. Sword breaks, Elder Kai comes out, and Elder Kai says, I can boost your power. And you have to understand, we get like one VHS tape every month, and there's 3 episodes on each tape. How many episodes did it take for old Kai to be like, first, you know, remember they had to do that silly dance where he's dancing around freaking Gohan, like, I will awaken your true power, la da 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 da. Months on end with that shit. And then afterwards, he's like, let's sit down and just do this for another fucking dozen episodes or whatever. And you know, so this is months upon months upon months, building and building and building to what's gonna be this amazing transformation for Gohan. Finally, fucking finally, we get to Gohan arriving on Earth. You know, right when right when Gotenks, you know, their fusion ended and they can't do anything anymore, and it looks like there's no one that can fight Buu. Gohan arrives. He's got the badass new outfit. And you know what? I was not even upset by the fact that Gohan, like, the Mystic Gohan transformation, which, by the way, back then it was just called the Ultimate Gohan transformation, which I don't know how I feel about that. Mystic sounds like he's gonna break out a fucking magic wand, but whatever. Mystic Gohan, whatever the fuck you want to call it. He shows up, and he has Goku's gi on. I remember Kibito, you know, that moment where Gohan asks for a gi like his dad's, and I thought that was a great scene. And then he just proceeds to beat the ever-loving shit out of Buu. And it's like, yes. But then, he gets too fucking arrogant, and he basically, you know, because of his arrogance, Buu absorbs him. And I felt a little bit betrayed by that. I felt like I wasn't even pissed at Buu because it was totally Gohan's fault there. And I like, for a long time after that, I could not watch those episodes. I could not watch the episode where Gohan was such a fucking idiot, even after having all this fucking power that Gohan, amongst all people, like, I would expect that from Vegeta, not Gohan. He's supposed to be the smart one. He's supposed to be intelligent. He's supposed to think things through. And he's a fucking dipshit. And it just lets the power go to his fucking head. I couldn't watch it for so long. And then finally, afterwards, you know, it's no more Gohan after that. You know, it's Goku and Vegeta that take the reins after that. And then GT didn't fucking help. I've always hated Gohan with glasses. I remember the first time I saw in GT, when Gohan had the glasses on, or maybe it was by the end of Z, one of the two, he has the glasses, and I'm just like, I don't even know who the fuck you are anymore, Gohan. I used to think you were badass. Remember Cell? Remember kicking the shit out of Cell? You're nothing anymore. And then I couldn't cope with that for years, and then Gohan just, for me, I just, you know, whatever. And in this episode, Piccolo just calls him out on his shit. He says to him, he's like, you got drunk on power. You're too arrogant. It's not about, you just keep bitching about, I want to protect everybody. I want to protect everybody. I want to protect everybody. Piccolo tells him, that's not good enough, Gohan. You can keep telling that all you want. Okay, but that's all that's going to do is let you blindly jump into battle. Okay, and that's not smart. You're better than this. You're smarter than this, and you have more power than this. One of the biggest confusing things that happened with Gohan's character, for me, maybe it made sense for you, but it was me, it's just how many times Gohan gets his ultimate potential unlocked by something, but then it still sucks ass at some point. Like, he goes and fucking, you know, he trains with Piccolo after the Saiyans arrive, and he doesn't unlock all of his power, but he gets some power unlocked. Then he goes to freaking Guru's place, and he's like, wait a second, I can release your power, boom! And then finally, even later on with Elder Kai, it's like, you have greater power even unlocked yet. I'm like, damn, how many times does Gohan have his power unlocked? You know what it is? I figured it out in this episode. Gohan, well, he doesn't train for one. So yeah, you can get your ultimate power potential unlocked, but if you just choose to immediately take that power, all this amazing power you just unlocked, and just set it aside and just never touch it, oh gee, I can't access that power whenever I want to easily, maybe because you never used it. So that makes sense to me. He gets all this power unlocked by Guru, then again, he was like 6 when that happened, so that might have been a limit on his actual age. But then later on, you know, he trains against Cell and everything, but then 7 years of never really, you know, training or anything. Never, I mean, he could still go into Super Saiyan 2 by the time the Buu saga rolls around, but even Vegeta said he's not even close to as strong as he was when he fought Cell. Guy didn't train. He was up here, and then he got knocked back down here. And then after the Buu saga, after he reaches this mystic Gohan status, I remember when freaking Resurrection of F came out, and I was like, why can Gohan not kick the shit out of Frieza at base? I understand that Frieza has his new gold form and he's a badass, but come on, Mystic Gohan versus freaking base Frieza, and he gets one-shotted by the fucker? That's the reason. Didn't train. Yeah, you still have the potential to unlock the Mystic status, but you haven't used it in fuck-off years, so you're of course not going to be able to access it easily. You know, so that was the issue. It finally clicked in my head why Gohan could just not achieve these powers whenever he wanted to. So in this episode, Piccolo finally calls him out and just starts beating on him relentlessly. He's like, I'm not holding back here, Gohan. You need to learn not to get these powers. You need to learn, number one, to not just become obsessed with trying to save everybody. You need to, you know, think this out logically, like I know you can do. But also, when you do achieve these great powers, you can't let it go to your head. And we see replays of the Buu saga. And you know what? Even after Piccolo straight up tells him, you had this power unlocked by Elder Kai. You got it. You got it to your head. You got drunk on power. You got absorbed. That was your fault. That was your dumbass fault. Gohan hears this. And then, guess what he does? He goes into he goes and he immediately, in his mystic form, and he immediately fucks it up. He immediately fucks it up. You have a scene where he's like, you're right, Piccolo-san, and he goes back into his mystic state, which I'm still fine with. The fact that he can still have the black hair and still be badass, I like that. I really do. It's kind of maybe taking more of the aspect of his human side rather than his Saiyan, which is something that's more, you know, for his father, you know, maybe difference of, like, to separate the characters as more, you know, individuals or something like that. But then he immediately fucks it up. He goes and he fights Piccolo. Piccolo tells him, I'm not gonna hold back here. Gohan has this really cool fight with him for a little bit. Piccolo, you know, uses some older tricks. He at the earlier stages of the fight, he stretches his arms out. Later on, he uses the multi-form technique, which is pretty cool. And I think he even uses like the grenade thing. Not Hell Zone grenade, but like just the normal version of it. You know, like Hell grenade. Like there's just the one version of it. And so, you know, Gohan knocks that around. But then you get to a point where, you know, Mystic Gohan cuts off Piccolo's arm, and he immediately is like, oh, okay, I won because I cut off your arm. Even though Piccolo, you have known Piccolo for how goddamn long, Gohan? How long? Don't you know that he can regrow an arm? Come on now. Come on. You had Cell. Cell, that the whole reason Cell could regenerate, the whole reason why Cell was such a pain in the ass to kill was because he had Piccolo's DNA. I mean, come on. So cool, of course, because Piccolo's not holding back here. He has his severed arm appear, like, float right behind Gohan and blast him in the freaking back. And he's like, come on, did I not just tell you this? Finally, it seems Gohan gets the freaking memo here. And you have a scene where Piccolo and him are by the campfire, which is reminiscent of the time when they were training, when Gohan was a little kid during the Saiyan arc, which I love that callback. And he's like, we only have, like, you know, a day or some such until the tournament begins, but let's train and let's try to figure out a formation, but just, you know, using your intellect, using tactics and shit. Let's figure out a team arc, you know, figuring out a way for us to fight together. We fight together. And that's that. I'm like, all right, it didn't fix anything, but at least Gohan finally got the memo. It finally penetrated his freaking head what the problem was. And we're moving on. So here we are. Like, I don't know, 15 years after the fact. 15 years of me holding on to this shit. Not really liking Gohan all that much. Trying to like Gohan because he's one of the main characters. He's Goku's son. I used to love him. I'm like, no, I can't admit to myself that I don't like Gohan. But it just all came out in this episode. Like a freaking floodgate. But even if we're not done yet. I mean, we're still, you know, we're not out of the woods yet, I guess I should say. But I still think it was such a good episode just because it mentioned that. It was like it was bringing attention to something years in advance, right? Okay, well, what else in the episode to talk about here? We have some training scenes. We see Krillin and 18 fighting. They're training there. That was cool. There was the preview for the episode, but I'll get to that at the end. That looks like next week's going to be a lot of fun, too. 17 is, of course, joined up. Okay. We got a scene very briefly before Gohan met with Piccolo. Goku actually stopped by, like, right after the tournament, right after the Zen exhibition match, and told him, you know, Gohan's out of practice. You're the only one that can do this. You're the only one that can train him. So that was interesting. There, Goku's taking the, you know, you got to train him, you know. We don't have a lot of time left. By the time the end of the episode rolls around, 9 hours are remaining, so we have a little bit of a skip into the future there. And the last scene of the episode, I have to talk about this just because it's pretty funny, is you see Yamcha in his house with Puar trying to think of how he's going to react when Goku inevitably shows up and asks him to join the team. So, typical Yamcha, you know, just Yamcha. Character that hasn't been even referenced or talked about, you know, for the majority of the latter parts of Z. He's just kind of there in the background. At least you're still having some funny scenes with him. So that, I always like that. Hey, at least, and Puar's just sitting there and is just aware that no one's going to come and ask him to join. And Puar is just like, oh boy, this is going to be sad. But hey, Yamcha, at least he's living in a nice place. He seems to have like a penthouse apartment suite sort of thing. So good for you, Yamcha. Next episode preview, though, I'm getting pumped because next episode is going to be not only the episode where Tien is going to be, you know, joined in, but you also see some Master Roshi in there, too. So from what we can see, Tien apparently has taken over the Crane School. He either has taken over the Crane School and is now teaching, you know, his own students, you know, his martial art techniques. Either that or he started his own dojo. Either way, it's still pretty cool because that gives us some introspection on what Tien's been doing. Tien's usually the kind of guy that just, I'm going to go out to the mountains and train for 7 years in solitude. But he's done that before, like, a lot. So it's nice to see that he's now back to training with, like, he's adopting something else rather than just secluding himself. He's trying to train other people in his martial arts. Next episode, we see apparently that Master Roshi and a lot of Tien's students are taken control of by these weird talismans that are placed on their faces. If you know anything about the lore revolving around Chinese vampires, that might be sort of what they're going for here with these talismans on their face and their skins all going blue and they're like being controlled by an evil force or something. There's also a girl in there that apparently wants to suck Tien's dick, I guess. I don't know. He deserves something. Remember Launch? There was a time in Dragon Ball where like Launch and Tien were kind of sort of an item, and in the early parts of Z, and it was just kind of forgot about whenever Toriyama just forgot launch existed. I shit you not. That's seriously what happened. But yeah, so there's some random chick, though, that's hanging around Tien. We'll get some Chaozu there, too, probably, and some Master Roshi. So this will probably just be like the 2-for-1 episode where instead of Goku going to Roshi's place and just asking him and then going to find Tien and asking him, we'll just get them both in one episode, and then that'll round out pretty much everybody in the team. I don't think we really need anywhere else. We get a scene with Vegeta in this episode very briefly. Oh, I'm glad I remembered that. Okay, so Vegeta's scene is where he just changes Bulla's diaper, so that's adorable. But we get this one, probably the funniest scene in the episode, even funnier than the Yamcha thing, where you see Bulma and her baby. And, you know, oh, they're adorable. And Whis and Beerus are there. And Whis and Beerus is like, maybe I should just tell them about the universe ending. And Whis is like, oh, no, I think you know what would happen if that was the case. And then Beerus just thinks about, he imagines the situation after he tells Bulma the universe will be erased if we lose. And Bulma just bitches him out. And he's just imagining this. And he's like, you fucking lame god, why did you do that? Well, Goku's the one that went to Zeno, and you let him go? Well, I tried to stop him. Like, don't you think, you stupid lame-ass god? So Beerus is just like, oh no, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. Of that. You have that God of Destruction in Universe 7, but nothing compared to a mild-mannered billionaire housewife. But I think that's pretty much in the episode there. Major events, of course, being Caulifa and then revealing and being revealed, and then of course Gohan and Piccolo's training, and Gohan finally realizing what the fuck has been up with his character for freaking 15 years or whatever, and trying to get to terms with it. And the next episode looks really intense too, so I'm gonna cover that. Although next weekend, I'm graduating college, so that might be a little bit delayed, but I really want to do that episode because that looks like a fun episode. I love Tien. I'd like to see Roshi back into it. The reason I didn't do last episode is I'm just going to do these on like an episode-by-episode case. I didn't really care for last episode too much. I really think you could have resolved a lot of... Like, 17's like, I want a boat. I'm like, alright, you couldn't just ask Bulma for that? Like, I know it's 5 billion Zenny or whatever, but Bulma's fucking... She's rich. She'll give you a boat. Or don't you think, better yet, why couldn't you just gather the Earth Dragon Balls for that? You know, that I really just think that second episode with 17 really wasn't that necessary, but that's just me. You know, it's like, oh yes, the Super Dragon Balls, the Chicken Dragon Balls, the Super Dragon Balls 17, they'll allow you to wish for anything, and their powers are much greater than the Earth Dragon Balls. And 17's just like, I want a boat. I'm like, oh, okay, you think we could just use the regular Dragon Balls for that, but whatever. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I've been John on for long enough. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and comment and subscribe. Thank you for being patient with me with the delays and the reviews and all that stuff. I know you guys understand. Love you all. Tekking101 signing out. Later, guys.